Every spring, I open a pool that didn't survive the winter. And it's almost never the ice that did it. It's a decision somebody made in October, following instructions they had no reason to doubt. I pull the cover back, and I already know what I'll find, because the same things go wrong every year. So this is 10 pool closing mistakes counted down. 9 of them cost you money. The 10th one, number 1, is the myth in the title, and that's the one that writes 4-figure checks. Quick word on who's telling you this. I'm Dave. 25 years working pools, and I'm still working them. I was blowing lines on a job this morning. I've closed more pools around the St. Louis Metro than I could put a number on, and I've opened all of them again in April, which is where you find out what October really did. One more thing before we start. There's something you were told about the water level in your pool, and it's exactly backwards. It's the whole reason I'm making this video. It's number 1, and I'm not touching it until we get there, because the 9 ahead of it are what make it make sense. Let's start at 10. Number 10 is the boxed winterizing kit. 5 months of protection in a box, $40 to $70. Inside, it's algicide, shock, and a stain preventer wearing a winter label. What actually protects your water all winter is temperature. Below 60 degrees, algae growth slows to almost nothing, and under 50, it stops. Cold water is the strongest winterizer ever sold, and it's free. That kit is dosed for a hazard the calendar already handled. A man in a supply house asked what happens if he skips it. He got a shrug. 25 years on pools, and I've never once bought that. Spend it on balance instead. Total alkalinity and calcium hardness where they belong the week before. Chlorine and pH in range on closing day. No exceptions. 4 numbers, 1 afternoon. Mesh covers let sun and rain through, so test midwinter and top it up. Skip the balance, and you'll open to water that's chemically fine and structurally expensive. $50-odd for a job the season does free. That one only cost you money. The next one gets sold as protection and quietly removes it. Number 9 is pool antifreeze instead of clearing your lines. Freeze protection in a jug, $15 to $20, and owners get sold 4 to 6. It's a freeze point depressant for a residual, the teaspoon left inside a blown-out line. Pour it into a full line, and a few feet on, it's basically water. It's insurance on an empty line, not a substitute for emptying one, and emptying is free. A pad in March, a return line split 3 feet underground, 6 empty jugs beside it. He'd bought every gallon they told him to. Blow each line until the air runs steady, then plug it at the return jet or the skimmer. Add antifreeze to the residual after that, if you like, and 1 gallon covers a normal pool. Pool rated only, never automotive, never through a heater, never into the pool. Low pressure only. If your lines run under a slab or you've got a heater, let your service company do it. Otherwise, a buried line splits out of sight and the pool won't hold its level. $80 of jugs against a 15-minute job. Same trick, different shelf. Next, the products you already own in a winter coat. Number 8 is the winter version of something you already own. Winter shock, winter clarifier, winter metal treatment. Formulated for cold, static water. A few dollars over the ordinary bottle. Same actives, different label. You're not buying a chemical, you're buying a smaller container. And a sequestrant, the stuff that keeps dissolved metals from staining, breaks down over weeks, not seasons. Poured in during October, most of it has given up by February. The real limit is the calendar, not the formula. A customer on Well Water bought that bottle 3 seasons running. Same gray shadow on her steps every April. Wrong month for it. On a well, dose the ordinary sequestrant at closing and again the week you open. The second dose is the one that matters, $10 to $15. Never combine products in a bucket or down the skimmer, whatever the labels say. Vinyl liners take staining worse than plaster and it doesn't brush out. So test your fill water once. Miss it, and you open to gray across the liner and steps that nothing removes. That's the shelf done. Now the part that costs nothing to fix and everything to get wrong. Number 7 is closing on the calendar instead of the thermometer, usually over Labor Day weekend. Nobody sells you this one, but the rescue at the other end runs $100 to $150. Around here, the water is still in the mid-70s in early September, so covering then hands algae 6 warm weeks in the dark. No circulation, no sun, and your chlorine is gone in about 10 days. Waiting 3 weeks costs nothing and removes the whole growth window. Every April, the green pools are the ones that closed early. Close when the water holds below 60 degrees for a week, which around here is mid to late October. Keep the pump on a short daily cycle until then. Nobody swims in the shoulder season on a pool left to coast, so chlorine and pH stay in range. And at opening, nobody gets in until you can see the bottom. Otherwise, it's a green pool in April and a week of filter runs. 3 weeks of patience against $150 of rescue chemistry. And when you do close it, one last habit does the damage on the way out. The story you get told is that winter is an attack. 5 months of cold trying to get at your pool, and closing is the armor you buy to survive it. It isn't. Winter is the cheapest, calmest 5 months your water will ever have. Nothing's growing, nothing's being consumed, nobody's swimming in it. Closing isn't armor, it's parking a car. And almost every dollar in that box is sold on the wrong story. That's a maintenance problem wearing a chemical costume. Which is why the mistakes from here on don't come out of a bottle at all. Number 6 is shocking heavily on closing day and covering the pool that afternoon. A big final dose to carry the water through, 2 or 3 bags at $5 to $8. Cold water is dense and slow, and a pump that's off can't move anything. Throw a heavy dose in at 4 o'clock and it sits in a layer against the liner for weeks, at a concentration nothing was built for. A normal dose that circulates beats a big one that never mixes. Your water doesn't read labels, it reads numbers. I opened a 5-year-old liner with a pale band around the deep end and nowhere else. It hadn't faded, it had bleached. In one winter. Dose to normal range with the pump running, give it 8 hours of turnover, then cover the next morning, never on top of an undissolved dose. And never combine chlorine products with each other, or any chlorine product with any acid. Not in a bucket, not in a skimmer, not any day. With a feeder or a salt cell, nothing goes down the skimmer at closing. Get it wrong, and you've got a bleached band on the liner and a cover that fails early. 2 extra bags a year and a liner replacement years early. That's what the water does to the pool. Next is what the numbers do. Number 5 is closing on whatever numbers you have and balancing it in the spring. Nobody sells you that, but a rebalance at opening runs $60 to $100. Water that isn't balanced is slightly hungry or slightly generous, and over 5 motionless months it works on whatever it touches. Hungry water pulls calcium out of plaster and grout. Generous water lays it back down on your tile line and inside your heater. In winter, nothing interrupts it for 150 days, and one afternoon in October removes a process no spring chemical undoes. I service a pad where a chalky band on the heater fittings grows every year. 5 winters of generous water. The week before you close, get pH and total alkalinity in range, then calcium, then run the saturation index. That number says whether your water is hungry or generous, and you want it near neutral. If you're bringing pH down with acid, that carries its own beat. Gloves, eye protection, open air, acid into water, and never the reverse, dosed near a return with the pump running. Small dose, then retest. Vinyl pools have no calcium to lose from the walls, but the fittings and heater do. Get it wrong and you get etched plaster or a scale band at the tile line, permanent without machinery. $20 in October against a repair measured in thousands. Now the pool's closed and balanced. Here's where most owners stop thinking about it. Number 4 is never looking at the cover between October and April. The cover gets sold as the end of the job, $200 to $500, with a cover pump another $40 to $80. A solid cover isn't a lid, it's a container. An inch of rain on an average cover is several hundred gallons, and wet snow is more again, all pulling down on the seams, springs, and anchors. 10 minutes with a pump, 4 or 5 times a winter, cancels the whole failure. A homeowner called me in February because his cover looked low. A foot of slush on it, inches from going in. Pump it whenever standing water is more than an inch or two deep, and always before a hard freeze, because frozen solid, it can't be pumped at all. Never walk on a winter cover, and never let a child or a dog near one. A cover with water on it looks solid and isn't. If yours has ripped or the anchors have pulled, that's a service call. Leave it and the cover goes in under the load, and you open to a pool that needs draining rather than balancing. A $40 pump against a new cover and a refill. That's everything you can see. The last 3 happen out of sight, and the third one cracks metal. Water expands by roughly 9% when it turns to ice. That's the entire villain of this video. One number, and it has never once changed. 9% is nothing at all if there's somewhere for it to go, and it's unstoppable if there isn't. Every entry left on this list is the same question asked in 3 places, and the answer is never a bottle. When that 9% shows up, where does it go? We start with the one place almost nobody checks, standing right there at your equipment pad. Number 3 is assuming the line blowout covered your equipment. Nobody sells you this one, it's assumed, and a cracked pump housing is $300 to $600. Clearing the plumbing empties the pipe runs, not the pump volute, the filter body, the chlorinator, or the heater header. Those are chambers with low points, and low points hold water however hard you blow. That's where the 9% has nothing to give, and the plugs that fix it are already there. I opened a pump with a hairline split down the housing, dry all winter because it had drained itself through the crack. The lines had been blown perfectly. Nobody had pulled the 2 plugs on the front. Pull every drain plug on the pump and filter. Open the multiport to winterize, drain the chlorinator, and tape the plugs to the pump in a bag. Plugs and valves only, though. Heater internals, gas valves, bonding wire, breaker panel. I name the problem, and you call your service company. Heaters have low points you can't reach, so that closing is worth paying for. Skip it, and you find a cracked housing the day you start the system. 5 minutes with a bag against a pump you're replacing in April. Same 9%, one wall over. And this is the most common repair I write up all spring. Number 2 is leaving the skimmer to fend for itself. An empty throat, no plug in the line, nothing to absorb the ice. The plug and the bottle are $3 to $12, and they get skipped constantly. This is the part nobody explains at the counter. The surface freezes as a floating sheet with open sky above it, so it expands upward. That's why an iced-over pool is almost never damaged by the ice on it. Your skimmer is the opposite, a rigid plastic box in the wall full of water with a lid. When that column freezes, it has nowhere up to go, so it goes sideways into the throat. Every spring, same repair, more than any other. Plug the line, then drop in an expansion bottle, or use the old trick, a sealed empty jug with sand in the bottom, tied off so it stands upright. Either way, the ice has somewhere to go. The plug goes in the line, not into wall fittings you can't see behind. If yours is already cracked, that's a wall repair, not a patch. Above-ground pools with a through-wall skimmer follow the manufacturer's winter plate. Leave it, and that pool leaks down to the skimmer mouth every summer after that. A $10 bottle against 4 figures once the deck comes up. Which brings us to the myth. And everything we just said about ice is why it's wrong. Number 1 is the myth. Drop the water as far as you can or drain it so the pool doesn't freeze. Hand it out free at every counter and over every fence. And a liner replacement is $3,000 to $5,000. The water is structure. It braces your walls against frozen, saturated ground pushing in. And on a vinyl pool, it holds the liner stretched. A liner left dry and cold shrinks, pulls out of its track, and does not go back. The ice was never going to hurt the open surface because it had the whole sky. Every real freeze risk lives in the lines, the skimmer, and the equipment, and none of it is solved by lowering your pool. An owner of mine did exactly what he was told, dropped it low over a wet autumn, and by March his liner was 2 sizes too small. He wasn't careless, he was following instructions. Drop only as far as your cover system needs. Solid cover with the line plugged just below the skimmer mouth. Mesh cover, the bottom of the returns, and check the level twice over the winter. Never drain to lower the level unless your service company knows your water table. Above ground pools, never drain for winter. That water holds the wall round. Get it wrong and you get a shrunk liner, a moved wall, or a shell that floats out of the ground. A garden hose and 2 check-ins against a liner or a wall. So that's the myth. Here's what it leaves you with. The thing you were told about the water level is backwards. Winter damage isn't caused by water in your pool. It's caused by water in 3 places it should never have been left: the lines, the skimmer, and the equipment. Handle those 3, then leave the water alone. It's the one part of this job that takes care of itself, and it's the part everybody interferes with. Closing isn't something you buy. It's something you do properly once and check on 3 times. 9 of the 10 things on this list cost you money. The 10th one costs you a liner. Cheap is fine. Wrong is expensive. And there's nothing on that list you needed a specialty label for. So count them up honestly. How many of these 10 did you do last October? Put the number in the comments and don't round it down, because there's no shame in any of them. Every one was handed to somebody by a person they trusted. My guess is 4, and my guess is the myth is one of them. Next one is the Spring Open, and the one order of operations that decides whether you spend a weekend on it or 3 weeks.